Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our fades and sleepers for this week's Open Championship. We're less than 12 hours away from the lock for the golf tournament, so we have a pretty good idea of what to expect in terms of ownership. And if you're playing in those large field GPPs, PGA DFS in general, you've got to have an idea of where the rest of the field is going to be, or at least where they're expected to be prior to lock. So here in this video, going to take a look at ownership, try and get an idea of some of the players getting steam going into lock, and some of the guys maybe being a little bit overlooked. And in specific, we're going to go through two fades, two sleepers that you might want to keep an eye on to either add into your player pool at low ownership, or with our fades, you might want to consider keeping out of your player pool because of how much steam, how much attention they're getting from the rest of the industry. So a lot to go through here, probably our most important video of the week. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. We're going to start with our fades, which first up, we've got a little twosome here of Terrell Hatton and Tommy Fleetwood. In fact, both of our fades. This is a range where I think a lot of people are trying to get to that, recent form hot commodity. You've got Terrell Hatton, right, 16.4% owned. I know it's on there as yellow. That's one of the higher owned players on the entire slate. In fact, I think he's the fourth highest owned player, regardless of price tag. You've got Tommy Fleetwood, who's even higher owned than Hatton. They're at 17.3%, who's also up there in the top three of ownership. So you're getting a lot of people just cycling to these Euros, right? These former DP World Tour stars. And I guess it makes quite a bit of sense. The form's there too, right? Number 6, number 4 in terms of recent form ranking. They have a lot of good experience at the Open. So don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to tell you that Terrell Hatton or Tommy Fleetwood are poor plays. What I'm telling you is that their ownership is not reflective of their success rate. I mean, you look at, the round one scoring market, you have guys around him that are projected much better than somebody like a Hatton or a Fleetwood. And if there are any projection differences, they're like half a stroke per round, right? You're not talking about 1-2 stroke differences there on the markets. And when you look at some of the outright odds, right, they're some of the favorites, right? They've been steamed down because they've gone so much action from people like you and me out there, right, trying to find some value. But guys like Jordan Spieth, Ricky Fowler, Hovland, Patrick Cantlay, even like a Dustin Johnson, Shane Lowry are all in that same vein of outright odds. These guys above them are actually have lower outright odds than some of these other players, and they're getting twice the ownership. So Matt Fitzpatrick is somebody that we're going to cycle back to here in a few minutes as one of those low-owned pivots that you can get to. But somebody like Matty Fitz, I think, has, I would say, just a slightly lower chance of being in the optimal lineup than somebody like a Terrell Hatton or a Tommy Fleetwood, and you're getting them at less than half the ownership. And there are plenty of other guys in this range that are at, I would say, the similar level of ownership, a lot of times 1.5, 2 times lower ownership than what you have with these two players that have the same, if not higher, hit rates, right? There are guys in this range I like more than these two players that are at significantly lower ownership numbers. So for me, that's why I'm fading them. Again, I play in large field GPPs. This week, it is a 140,000 entry kind of contest. And if I'm going to play a Fleetwood or a Hatton, right, that's playing against 30, 40,000 other entries, right? It's not like you're playing in, 100 entry kind of contest, or even like 1,000 entry single entry where I might be able to get away with that sort of thing. A lot of it's dependent on the contest that you're playing. So if you're in a single entry, I think that guys like a Hatton and a Fleetwood are a lot more playable. But if you are in one of those mega large GPPs that we get for a major championship, these sort of players, at least to me, are almost borderline unplayable, right? Unless they're, your top 2 plays going into the week, you bet Hatton, you bet Fleetwood there on Monday morning. I don't know if I could be playing them at that sort of ownership level. Worth noting that a pivot you can get to, we're already onto our sleepers. Again, guys, I can't really poke a hole in Hatton or Fleetwood's games. Like, they're striping it of late. They fit the golf course. They've played here well. I get all of that, but it doesn't make them twice as good as everyone else, right? That's really the argument there. I don't think we have to do that much more. Just in terms of the shots gained metrics, I mean, look at them. They're pretty sweet, right? I do have to say, neither one of them's really killing it with the approach play. It's a little bit more the putter and the off the tee, which kind of worries me at this kind of golf course. It's not known for being a putting contest, as a lot of other links courses can be putting contests. This one's not going to be. And then off the tee, it's a really difficult off the tee course. So I don't know. If you're trying to poke a hole, and that's what I'm trying to do here, right? Trying to figure out a way to get off those players, I guess it would be that, right? The putter's not really what we're looking for. In terms of a pivot, though, Matt Fitzpatrick, 7.3% owned. The reason why he's not getting any ownership is because he told the media that he doesn't expect to play well this week. Well, I'm old enough to remember just a few years ago when Colin Morikawa won and told us the week before that he was shanking every shot. These irons weren't, and I quote, interacting with the turf properly, and that he didn't expect to play well at the Open. Went out there, Royal St. George's, and won the golf tournament. Looked like an absolute world killer. It's happened before. It's going to happen plenty of times into the future. And I don't know, I just get flashbacks to that moment. And I see somebody like Matt Fitzpatrick, who I think is the longer term better player than a Terrell Hatton and a Tommy Fleetwood. And I don't think it's particularly close at less than half the ownership. To me, it makes my decision quite simple, right? Making that sort of pivot. I think if you wanted to play a Hatton or a Fleetwood and then just mix in, Matty Fitz as maybe the lower owned leverage option in that range, I think that'd be a pretty good way to handle these three players too. But for me, right, I'd rather take a Matty Fitz and scattershot on a few other players in this 9K range that once again are just world-class talents. I mean, you guys know I like Ricky Fowler. I already talked about Cantlay as potentially being one of those guys. But Jordan Spieth, his Open record, right? You guys know I'm a Jordan Spieth sucker, right? He's 100% going to be in my player pool. Down here, like a DJ is Shane Lowry. I mean, you're talking about the Royal Portrush champion, right, at the Open. You've got DJ who's, despite not winning an Open Championship, has had quite a decent record in terms of top 5, top 10s. And then this 8K range is loaded too. Like there are options to get off of these super chalky guys. If not a Matt Fitzpatrick, like I'm talking up here. The last 12 rounds, I guess they haven't been amazing for Matty Fitz, but they haven't been horrible. Like he's gaining from fairway in. He's just a slight loser off the tee. The last 36 rounds are a little bit more favorable, right? Gaining across the board. I know the shots gained aren't quite as sexy as what you have with these other two players. But again, do a little bit of zooming out. One of them is a major champion. The other two aren't. One of them is what I think going to be a multiple-time major champion in his career, and the other two might not even get one in their career. So that's what I've got to say about that, right? And you can't tell me that Matty Fitz has been around longer than these two because that's just not true, right? Let's go down to our last sleeper play. This one's more of like a true sleeper here in the middle of the 7K range. It's Joaquin Niemann at $7,500. He's 3.6% owned, essentially unowned for this range, right? You have a lot of guys in that 7 to 10% range, if not 10% plus, like some of the mega chalky at the top, chalky option at the top of the 7K range. But Joaquin Niemann, very similar to Minwoo Lee, right? Minwoo Lee, we're playing this week. I'm trying to get to him at relatively low ownership. Joaquin Niemann, another player that hits the stinger often. He's a player who's not afraid to go out there and manipulate his ball flight. Playing on live, maybe not his best. I have to say the form probably leaves a little bit to be desired. Over that way, he hasn't been in contention in quite some time, but he also hasn't had a really poor week in quite some time. He's living in that top half to middle of the leaderboard. I'd say like that 15th position is usually where we see Joaquin Niemann, which for his Torquay team has worked out pretty well. They've gone out there, they've been consistently grinding out some top 3s, some top 5s, getting points for that. But Niemann, right, kind of going under the radar. Like you haven't heard his name, even if you're watching a lot of the live golf tournaments like myself. And if you look at the stats, he's still playing well. He's up there in the top 5 of birdie rate on the live tour. In terms of your overall points rankings, he's up there in the top 10. So it's not like he's completely sleeping. And at $7,500, he's played well at some real difficult tracks, right? I'm thinking the Genesis, he went out there and won, right? A few other difficult golf courses, getting into contention, major championships even, getting his nose at least into that top 10, that top 20. He's the sort of player that when he has his best stuff, when he's clicking on all cylinders, it's him getting into the top 5, right? Like he's that sort of streaky player. When he doesn't have his best stuff, oftentimes it's a missed cut, or it's, making a cut and finishing in like 25th place. So, you look at the form, it's pretty much non-existent, right? He did finish T32 at the US Open, which I guess is pretty decent. Over there in the Live Tour, like I said, nothing real flashy there either. So I don't know. I'm taking a shot on him. It's more the skill set than anything. It's more that high-end upside that we've seen even in some of the strongest fields in golf. And at this sort of, major championship type of field, it's a whole different ask to go out there and get into the top 5 of that kind of golf tournament, as compared to a run-of-the-mill PGA Tour event or a Live Tour event for that matter. Going out here and spiking in this kind of field takes a completely different level of performance. And I think that somebody like Waco has proven that in the past. And to be it about a year or two ago over there on the PGA Tour, I think he's still got it in him. Alrighty, guys, that is all I've got for the fades and sleepers this week. I appreciate all the support here. Smash that like button on the way out of here, and comment down below who you're fading this week and who you're taking as a sleeper play. Of course, our fade, try and make them somebody relatively high owned, and then for the sleeper play, let's try and go 7% or lower in terms of the ownership. So if they're in the 9K range, we can go up to 10%, but let's try and make them at least a little bit sneaky out there. I appreciate you guys. Best of luck luck with those lineups, any outright bets that you're going with. We'll be doing our live stream tonight. It'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Feel free to bring any questions that you've got on by. We'll go through the weather, some GBP chalk stuff, lineup construction, some prop analysis, whatever you guys need to go out there, have yourself a week, and crush it for this last major. I'm looking forward to it. Should be an absolute blast, and I hope to see a few of your names towards the top of those GPP leaderboards. Until next time, best of luck, like I said, and I'll catch you guys at the stream.